At the turn of the 20th century, there were many black art forms burgeoning. In the entertainment sphere, earlier black popular music looked like minstrel shows, and many of these performing arts were for and to white patronage. The blues, however, was for black people and by black people. The blues comes out of a black field holler, spiritual, and slave song tradition. Geographically, it was born in the plantation deep south, that is, Georgia all the way to the east of Texas. These territories were known to be most brutal during slavery. Enslaved Africans used this call-response singing, typically in the fields, to get through a long day of grueling sun-up to sundown work. After emancipation, as Jim Crow was ushered in, they continued to sing through hard labor as sharecroppers or in prison labor. From this emerged the blues. It gave black people a voice they didn't have in the Deep South. It was a creative shout into the void of their suffering, the woes of being black in a racist, anti-black society. The blues has both African and European components. European components took form in the areas of harmony and instrumentation. However, the use of the Western instruments is attributed to the influence of the African musical tradition, and secondary instruments like the kazoo and washboard are reinterpretations of African instruments. The African oral tradition is linked to the blues as well in the form of griots. Griots were West African historians, storytellers, poets, or musicians. The job of a griot is to recount the history of the people. This link is significant because most enslaved Africans were brought to America from the shores of West Africa, and the blues so beautifully recounts the life and history of Africans in America.
Conceived by freed African Americans deep in the American South during the early 20th century, blues has long been the musical style reflective of human life itself. It's full of expression, both triumphant and somber sounding. Its characteristic elements, the lyrics sung in the form of howling cries, the 12-bar blues rhythm, and most importantly, the signature call and response conversations between voice and instrument all give the blues its trademark attitude and feel. The blues was often conveyed live through whichever instruments were available at the time. This included the electric guitar, the upright and electric bass, drums, and piano or keyboards. While these instruments are no stranger to other musical styles like jazz, funk, or pop music, it's the way in which a guitarist can imitate the human voice by sliding a whiskey glass up and down the strings of the electric guitar, in which the pianist builds tension by accenting their playing with dissonant blue notes, and in which the drummer rhythmically drives the music forward by laying down a solid shuffle-like beat that create the distinct sounds that many musicians from the last 100 years have spent their entire careers emulating. Although there is some musical structure, there is always room for improvisation. In performance, solos can extend for several minutes and are often determined by the musician's emotional state that evening. Oftentimes, these solos are played over minor or sad, darker chords and are deliberately structured to sound like phrases of dialogue, driving home the point of, quote, having the blues.
Blues, a very unique type of music due to its distinct techniques that are used, such as syncopation and melisma. Now onto some famous blues musicians. We can start from the singer Riley B. King, also famously known as B.B. King, who is a singer and guitarist. B.B. King started his musical career at age 22 in Memphis, and his career started to rise in 1948, where he took the name B.B. King. One of King's famous known songs is The Thrill Is Gone. Though the song didn't make much success on charts, King was able to influence many as a blues legend. He was also placed in the Blues Hall of Fame in 1984. Another legendary blues guitarist is McKinley Morganfield, who is famously known as Muddy Waters. McKinley played both guitar and harmonica and also had a deep voice which accompanied him in playing blues. One other famous blues musician is Chester Arthur Burnett. Chester also had a nickname which was known as Howlin' Wolf. Mentored by the best bluesmen at the time, Chester learned how to play the guitar by Charlie Patton and the harmonica from Sonny Boy Williamson II. The Howlin' Wolf was also the rival to Muddy Waters and had an intense competition between each other. The reason for the rivalry was due to how both Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf were receiving songs written by Willie Dixon, a blues genius. All in all, it was a pleasure doing a podcast on the topic of blues. My group had a delightful discussion learning about the origin, musical aspects, and notable musicians of the blues.